Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Friday Ask Me Anything Substack edition. Yes, I am home, and I have gotten lots of questions, great questions from you, but one that I've gotten a lot of that I just haven't addressed for whatever reason is people are always asking, like, where are you? Meaning when I'm here, and I keep referencing my house, and this is actually my home. That's the southern end of the forest where I live, and fireplace that I cook in. I actually put I have a grill that fits across in there, and I have hooks built into the top so I can actually hang things in there. So during the wintertime, I can cook over open fire. And back up there, you can see the fire pit and stuff, very Minnesotan. This is, I like being able to see out of things. And of course, the most popular members of the family, my two children, Luca and Clemmy. So that's the situation here. Kitchen, which is basically, as you can see, in the living room, which I really like. That's the setup. So I hope that answers your questions. And yes, that doggy door there is to prevent them from going downstairs and eating my leather guitar straps. I know, that's what happens if you have guitars. Your dogs eat your guitar straps. Well, not the like stitched ones or fabric ones, but the leather ones. Anyway, we've gotten that question knocked out of the park, I think. Susie writes, Andrew, thank you for the knife buying advice. I'm in love with my Shun knives. Good, so am I. They are exquisitely balanced and fit my hands perfectly. I believe Susie was someone who was concerned about the size of her hands, and I thought that the handles on the blonde line that Shun came out with were perfect for people with small hands, which is true. For those that don't know, I have big hands, so I can't use thin-handled knives. I use other Shun knives, and when I collect vintage knives or a knife maker gifts me a knife, I always make sure they have a sizable handle, because if it's too thin a handle, my hand rolls over too much, and when I'm cutting, eventually it just cramps up. You want a knife handle that's sized for yourself. So her next question is, what are your thoughts about AI and restaurant chefing? Wow, big question. Robots are going to be cooking a lot of our food over the course of the next half a generation. They already are. There are already restaurants that are robotic. Robots are able to perform so many functions in a kitchen. Robots are not able to open up a 50-pound box of pork shoulders and say, wow, these are too fatty, or they haven't been trimmed, or they're not the spec that we use. Although with AI, they can then take in that information through an optic reader, and they might be able to in the future, but right now they're very expensive, right? So I'm not really worried about that. And they're not able, artificial intelligence is not able to handle the creative aspects or the second-to-second decisions that it comes down to cooking, like tasting, is that sauce too reduced? Is that burger too well done? However, as time goes on, those will also be challenges that will be overcome by artificial intelligence. Most of the robotic restaurants right now are ones where human beings are actually able to portion and size things. Think of Noodles and Company, the chain, right? If all the vegetables are bagged and all the sauces are measured and everything is detailed down to the gram, right? And you have robotic woks and pots that are doing the sauteing and the finished work on the noodles, A concept like that could be powered by robotics. I will tell you, as someone who used to do daytime television, morning shows here in Minnesota, 20 some odd, over 20 years ago, we would have 14 or 15 people behind the camera, sound people, cameramen, floor directors, grips just dealing with lights and lines and things like that. And then we had 4 or 5 people in the control booth. About 3 weeks, a month ago, I went into our CBS affiliate morning program because I had to do an appearance in support of Taste of Minnesota. And I went in and there was one person on the floor other than the talent in front of the camera because everything was essentially robotic. They had 2 people in the control booth, 1 person on the floor, and folks in front of the camera simply wear devices where the cameras follow them. So when you talk about AI, it's impossible not to talk about robotic function when it comes to cooking. So Susie refers to an article in The Guardian that says AI could do some of the profiling functions some restaurants do, like looking people up, figuring out their dietary preferences from social media. It could also help restaurants figure out if someone is likely to be a no-show. That's already happened. That already exists. Restaurants are already using programs like that. So it's not a could do, they are. It could make up recipes in the style of certain chefs. Chef Eric Repair is already worried about this. Well, I've not talked about this with Eric, who's a friend of mine, but I'm certainly going to ask him. It's pretty difficult. AI can do genres of food, right? But it can't capture Eric's inspirational cooking. However, if you feed 1,000 pictures of Eric Repair food and 500 recipes from his books into a artificial intelligence program, it could create foods that are in fact in the style of Eric Repair. They're just not going to be able to capture, bad pun, the je ne sais quoi, right? People are skeptical it could handle much in the way of cooking. Well, that's not true. It's just that AI, artificial intelligence, when it's married with a physical component like a robot can. So there we go. More on that in the coming 14 months, I'm sure, maybe sooner. Brenda wrote, I've managed to lose your recipe for your French kiss blend. It was wonderful in hamburger steaks, which my husband has recently requested. Would you please share it again? You're referring to the spice blend that I had, and I think I described it, it's got lemon zest and shallots and garlic and tarragon and parsley. But if you go to andrewzimmern.com and you click on spices at the top navigation bar, it will take you right to the place where you can buy it. Good news. There's a major supermarket chain that has just taken up a national chain that has just taken up the Andrew Zimmern Badia Spice Blend set, which includes, it's an incredible set of spices with a lot of freeze-dried elements in it that make it really special. Freeze-dried garlic and shallots and lemon zest and orange zest and chilies and other things that once hydrated or added to something really make it super special, and really great dried herbs. So look for those, but you can always buy them by going to my website and clicking on spices. It'll take you right to the place where they are. Enchanté writes, when doubling or tripling recipes, should you always triple the salt and oil too? Never. In fact, some recipes you can double and triple. Think of like cakes. If you need to make three-layer cakes and you want to triple everything, you do, because you're just doing it by the cake pans, right? And the icing will ice that many layers, right? It's a very simple one. Chocolate chip cookies, again, same thing. But if you were tripling my, what could I think of? A coq au vin recipe. We're going to brown the chicken in oil. You don't necessarily need to triple the oil to brown, because the oil that's in the pan that you're browning 5 pieces of chicken in, you could probably brown 10, 12 pieces of chicken in too. And in the size of your pot, you wouldn't want to triple the amount of wine, because the wine would overflow your pot. You may want to just double it, right? And you see where I'm going with this? So with things, frying mediums and with liquids, it doesn't always equate. My rule of thumb for that is always to use common sense. Read the recipe. I always tell people also, read the recipe through twice. That's the most vital piece of information that most home cooks don't do. I read a recipe through twice when I'm looking at a new recipe. Once to familiarize myself with it, and the second time to make sure I understand it. And there really is a difference. Claudia writes, both my husband and I recently made dietary changes because of food sensitivities, and although it's made a huge difference in how we feel, we still crave some of our old favorites, one being pizza. Yes. I've ordered chestnut and pistachio flours to attempt a pizza crust. Even though chestnut flour is common in Italy, I can't find any recipes. Any help in this area is greatly appreciated. One of the problems with the word flour is that depending on what the flour is made from, essentially it's just ground down to a powder. And that doesn't always have all the properties that other seed flours have. And one of the big ones would be with things like chestnut flour and nut flours, right? So one of the things that I think it would seem with food sensitivities, if you're having food sensitivities to wheat, right, there are a ton of frozen, gluten-free doughs that are out there now. 4 or 5 years ago, most of them were crap. Now a lot of them are really, really great. I would look those up online. A lot of people, I'm not one of them, but a lot of people love the cauliflower crusts and all the rest of that. And I would try to go towards something maybe that is made with, if you want that crusty vibe, things that are made with corn flour or rice flour, things that do not have gluten, as opposed to chestnut flour, which is also a lot more expensive than chestnut flour. So I would try that. David writes, we're in the middle of a kitchen remodel, only have a toaster, an oven, a microwave, and coffee maker. What would you make for weeknight foods? I can't think of anything other than boiling. Well, you can still boil in your oven. You get water hot in your microwave, put it in a 400-degree oven, and it would boil. And then you can cook pasta in it. You can do anything if you have a pot and an oven, because you can replicate the heat. It's just not going to come from the bottom or from bottom top. Or it's going to come from bottom top or through convection if it's in an in an oven. I will tell you that the house I'm in for 6 months, I had less equipment than you have. And online, I ordered a, $50 induction top. It was on sale on Amazon. There's always a brand on sale on Amazon, a decent brand. And so I would encourage you, if you're going to be in that situation for a while, that $50 will save your life, because you'll be able to saute and roast at the same time. So yeah. What are you guys doing over there? They're playing with their pile of toys. Sorry about that. Love the comment in the recent spilled milk email regarding overpriced items in some restaurants. Have seen that myself. I always wonder how they can justify charging outrageous prices for something that costs little to make. Well, I was kind of making both points. A lot of restaurants are suffering. They've been kneecapped over the last 5 years, and they're desperately trying solutions to make their businesses viable. And yes, a $40 lettuce salad is, to me, a bridge too far. The item in question was I think a $36 steamed artichoke that I had in a restaurant. And by the way, the artichoke was nothing special. It was a traditionally farmed, non-organic California artichoke that got shipped to the East Coast. And yeah, that's a bridge too far for me. But by the same token, in the same piece, I pointed out that a $17 half chicken dish in a restaurant is priced that way because the restaurant has found that when they charge $27 for it, which is probably what the half chicken dish should cost, so that the restaurant can make the proper percentage as a business and keep themselves afloat, people walk out. America is addicted to fast, cheap food. And I'm not talking about McDonald's or Burger King, although we are addicted to that. But we are addicted to the idea that food should be delivered quickly. We get irritated when things take too long to get in a restaurant. And this is just the most outrageous part. We insist that food is cheap. And one of the biggest places you see it is in restaurants that are featuring the cuisine of other cultures. I find it a form of culinary racism when I take friends to a Chinese restaurant or a Thai restaurant or a Mexican restaurant, and the first thing someone does is makes a comment about the prices, as if that food somehow should all be cheap. Not true. Charlene writes, I would like to try... Excuse me. I would like to try octopus, not a big item on the southeastern coast. No, because most octopus don't swim that far south. I have found frozen whole cleaned octopus in the freezer section of my market. Any ideas? Yes. Defrost it for 2 to 3 days, because usually it's frozen in a block, so it takes a while. They wind the legs around it, so it's very compact. Defrost it for 2 or 3 days safely in your refrigerator. Drain it, clean it by rinsing, pat it dry. Get some water boiling, and I just posted a recipe online from my website and my YouTube channel about properly cooking an octopus. And then my favorite thing to do is to cool that octopus, brush some oil on the legs and char it on the grill, and then you don't need to, you just plate it with some lemon and olive oil, maybe a little sprinkling of something spicy. I love octopus. But we have a lot of suggestions on our website. But yes, just defrost it and go. Octopus is delicious. Adam writes, what's your favorite organ that you love to cook and eat? Wow. Crispy chicken skin. The skin is the largest organ on any animal, right? So I guess that counts. I love hearts of all kind. I think it's one of the most refined muscles on any animal. And when cleaned and then seared, and if I sliced, an ox heart or lamb heart for you that I've cooked, you would think it's the best steak you've ever eaten. I love livers, love kidneys. Oh my gosh. Done in the Western European sort of old school style, I grill kidneys and season them with roasted rosemary salt that I make, a little bit of lemon, a little bit of olive oil sliced. It's just fantastic. By the way, charred herb salts, and I'm going to make another batch of the rosemary salt. I just take big bunches of rosemary, brush it with olive oil so you don't get sooty flare-ups, and I cook it over indirect heat in a covered grill so it dries out, and then I just put it over the hottest part of the grill for a second so parts of it char, let it cool, strip all the leaves off, and it's just it looks like a big pile of ash and green and brown in there. Mix it with just a little bit of salt, about, 7-to-1 herb to salt, and then just pulse it in my food processor or mortar and pestle, and then save it. And you sprinkle that mixture on anything. That rosemary salt will blow your mind. Amy writes, what's your favorite Grateful Dead song? Whichever one that's playing, that was written before the 90s. How's that for an answer? I'm not a big, look, I'm an old school Deadhead. There's so many great songs and great versions of songs. Sometimes, the Dead is, to me, the greatest live band ever. Incredible experience, and I listened to all of their tapes and stuff. Tapes, giving away my age. But if I had to pick one, a rousing, well, there's going to be a tie, a rousing version, up-tempo of Cassidy, Bertha. I'm a sucker for China Cat Rider. I mean, just because it's just such a beautiful, Eyes of the World. I mean, Eyes of the World from Englishtown, 74, is as beautiful a song as I've ever heard. I did recently, because Robbie Robertson passed away, hear Jerry's a Grateful Dead version, or was it Garcia Band? I forget which. Night They Drove Dixie Down, and I just started crying. Yeah. Anyway, love you all. See you next week. Have a great one.